I would say, all right, so here's what the common big three barbell exercises are. They are going to be the squat, the deadlift, and the bench press. However, I'm under the philosophy that the bench press, while being an excellent exercise, like a super awesome exercise for building upper body strength, your upper body is a little bit more complex than just, right, your upper body is a lot more complex than you think. And so just doing this motion isn't really enough to stimulate growth, I guess, in all the right proportional places in your upper body. So on days like this where I focus on barbell exercises, I like to actually swap out my bench press for an exercise that I would say is highly underrated, and I mean extremely underrated, especially for guys, and that would be the barbell hip thrust. So the barbell hip thrust, again, if you've ever read any research or watched any videos by Brett Contreras, who's known as the glute doctor, the booty doctor. He could have been the booty doctor, but I think he's known as just the glute guy or the glute doctor or whatever, Dr. Glutes. You'll understand that the barbell hip thrust is actually, it is a compound exercise, and it's an extremely efficient one. You actually, by doing this exercise, you see the most growth in your glutes, and you see it targeting a lot of the weaker muscles around it. So, yeah, that's my 3 exercises today. I'm going to start off with some squats, then I'm going to move on to deadlifts, then I'm going to move on to barbell hip thrust, and then again, this is also a Q&A stream. If you have any questions about fitness or whatsoever in general, feel free to go ahead and just drop it right into the chat. I'll get right to you as soon as I can. Okay, so before I actually hit my squats, right, I'm going to do a couple of warm-up sets with just the bar, just so I can let my body know that, one, I'm doing squats. Additionally, it'll be a good time for anybody who's just tuning in, so I need to wait for people to kind of actually tune into the channel for a second. Once they actually tune into the channel, they actually get to see what proper squat form looks like, all right? So I'm going to demonstrate it with a few sets right here. Keeping an upper thoracic spine extension, making sure that my whole body is contracted. I don't let my elbows work back. And then up here, take a big deep breath in. Squat all the way to death. And then up. Slow and controlled on the eccentric, and then explode out. Okay, and we're going to be working on, I would say for my squat, I'm not really feeling it at my right knee right now, so I'm going to be working on a bit lighter weight than usual, but it's okay. Again, as long as correct form is done, then that really is all that matters. You're going to get the growth, you're going to get the hypertrophy in, right? If you spend time focusing on the tempo, you're going to get the strength gains. If, again, you spend time focusing on the tempo of the movement. It does you no good to try to lift super heavy, having like a half-ass range of motion. It just doesn't work like that. And if you're only training one range of motion, you're missing out on strength gains on that other range of motion that you're not training. So full range of motion, full squat depth is always going to be important. Other things that you want to really be sure you're focusing on when you're doing squats is full body contraction and really, really engaging the thoracic spine. So what I like to do is I like to pretend that there's a string coming from the center of my chest and that somebody is pulling that string up to get those shoulders back and your thoracic spine extended. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and put some weight onto the squat rack, or onto the barbell, hit my next set of squats. So, 70 kilos on the squat rack. Let's go ahead and hit it. All right, one light set right over there. Feeling actually quite good on my knee now, so I'm gonna up the weight by just a little bit. Probably add another 10 kilos on each side, go up to 90 kilos. All right, so we've got 90 kilos on the bar right now. Not that much weight, but again, I want to be focusing on, again, range of motion. And again, it does not matter how much, it doesn't matter how much weight you have on it. As long as you are getting the time under tension and you are feeling it overload on you at a certain rep range, right? So right now, I'm still working up to figuring out what that rep range is. So this is 90 kilos. Usually I can squat 90 kilos, but again, you know, I haven't squatted in maybe like 2 weeks. So if you haven't squatted in like 2 weeks, I might come back to this week, possibly even stronger. Who knows? I'm gonna work up to what my working set is, work out here this next set, see how I feel. You know, you're gonna feel stronger or weaker on certain days. It's just the fact of it. Anybody who's been training for a long time knows this. It's only really beginners who approach that mentality of, oh, well, you know, if you can't do it, like, if you can only do that much weight on this one, you should always be able to do this amount of weight. Actually, you obviously haven't been training enough to know that your strength fluctuates like daily, pretty much. Some days you feel stronger, some days you don't. Today I feel actually quite good, so we'll see how well I can get up. We'll work up to maybe a set, like I'm still working on my warm-up sets to try to get up to an actual working set. So we'll see how it goes. Okay, so 90 kilos feels pretty good. I'm gonna up it up to 100 and then probably use 100 kilos as my working set for today. So those first two sets, I won't really count them. I'll count the next 3 to 5 sets, depending on how I feel on my third set. If I have a 2 rep drop off on my third set, that means it's usually time for me to move on to my next exercise. So anyway, let's add another 5 kilos on. Sorry, add another 10 total kilos on. So on days like this, respect your recovery time. And when I say days like this, I mean days where you're working relatively high intensity, low volume, which is actually what I like to, like today's light training for me, right? So when I do days like light training, when I take a day where I want to do just light training, I'm going to raise the intensity high. Oh, wow, Simply Deep Forever 32. Welcome to my stream, man. Twitch has been telling me that I have 0 viewers on, so I actually didn't know if anybody was watching. Anyway, at least I know that someone here is watching, so thank you very much for dropping in. So, I've got 100 kilos on the bar right now. Today I'm doing relatively light training, and I was just explaining what that actually means to me. Light training for me is keeping my intensity level high, but my volume low. Lucky Lethal's just stopping by to say hello. Well, hello to you too, man. Hey, do you mind telling me how many people I actually have watching me right now? Because, again, Twitch is telling me I've got 0. So, I've actually got no idea. I feel like I've just been talking to myself this whole time, but hey, 2 works for me. Cool. Well, thanks for dropping in and saying hello. I'm going to be doing barbell squats, deadlifts, and then hip thrusts today. So, that is the brunt of my training. Anyway, as I was explaining, again, high intensity, low volume. I want to train light today. I still want to have some time to do my mobility stream later or tomorrow night, and then later tonight I'm going to be doing a Magic the Gathering stream. So for me, but the thing is I still need some kind of stimulus to my nervous system, right? So the stimulus to my nervous system is going to help at least build up the testosterone in my body in order to actually make gains over the next couple days. Simply put, that's why I'm not doing the barbell movements and not doing any hard work by doing calisthenics, because when I do leg training or core training with just calisthenics, I end up doing a lot of volume, right? So I end up doing a lot of volume, which fatigues me a lot more. So today I'm focusing on just intensity and really getting a huge full body shock to my nervous system. So anyway, I'm going to hit the next set, 100 kilos. Watching and listening, but studying. Well, thanks a lot, Maj Potato Head, for watching. Hopefully, while you're studying, you can learn a little bit from the stream. I'm just going to be continuing. Look, even though it says I have 0 viewers, I always assume that I've got nobody watching, and I I always want to keep in the habit of just at least speaking about information. Simply put, nobody's going to be actually stick to a channel where somebody's just like, quiet, not really engaging. And hopefully, even though you're just watching, not really commenting, if you're just listening, you're just studying, hopefully you can still at least learn something through this stream. So I'll try to be as educational as possible. On top of that, by talking about these things, it helps me reinforce my own positioning, my own form. So it's like form checking myself pretty much the entire time while I'm here. It's actually quite nice. It really makes sure that I stick around to actually practicing what I preach, So anything that I preach, I actually have to do. So that last set of squats there, I can tell you what mistakes that I made, especially since my last rep, right? So my last rep, I had a bit of a small sticking point somewhere in the middle of the contact portion of the lift. So this is going to be a pretty good intensity for me to stay at right now. So I'm just going to stick with just 100 kilos for 5 reps. Making sure that, again, full range of motion. I keep strict form standards and make sure that every rep I'm holding, giving a bit of a pause at the bottom, just to make sure that I am in control of the weight. So, either way. Actually, it feels really quite good because a couple weeks ago I had a bit of a problem with my right knee. So I had a problem with my right knee, had a little bit of knee pain going up. I don't feel that right now, so I don't know, maybe all what I needed that time was just a little bit more recovery. So, I don't know, speaking of recovery, let's get into that. Me and my friend, so my best friend is also a personal trainer. He trains at Club 360 in Tokyo, Japan. And we had this discussion over last week about whether or not people are actually overtraining, training hard enough. And what we've actually come to the conclusion was that most people aren't overtraining. They're not even training actually hard enough. Most people are just under-recovered. They don't spend enough time sleeping. Their nutrition is shit. Their water intake is super low. And then they don't spend enough time doing things like, recovery exercises. So like mobility drills, stability drills, flexibility drills. So they end up being quite under-recovered for the next set. They work themselves towards injury. And you just find that they're lacking totally in gains just because, again, they're not treating the recovery with respect. So for the most part, I don't think people end up overtraining. It's like you have to be kind of like be at least an intermediate level athlete to get into the realm of overtraining. But yeah, I mean, look, as a beginner as well, so I'm not saying that I'm a beginner, but if you are coming into exercise and fitness and training as a beginner, and you're training 5-6 days a week, your muscles, for example, are just not adapted to that kind of stimulus. So when it's not adapted to that kind of stimulus, you end up cooking your muscles maybe a little bit too much. So if you're a beginner, you're working out like 5-6 days a week, really hard, doing full body workouts and shit every day, you might end up overtraining over like a span of 5 or 6 weeks. So, yeah, that's all I can say. I don't know, and if anybody's actually got questions on overtraining or just training in general, drop it in the chat. Until then, I'm just gonna keep talking to myself. I actually kind of enjoy talking to myself. Makes me feel like, Gollum, Smeagol. All right, so I'm gonna give myself maybe another minute or two of rest, just because on days where you are focusing on intensity over volume, you want to give yourself the highest amount of reps, you want to make sure that each set, you're maximizing the amount of reps that you actually can do. So, for me to actually continuously hit 5 reps on each set, I'm gonna have to give myself at the very minimum 3 minutes of rest. If not 5, I like to actually try to go for 5 because, again, I'm not trying to work super hard today. I'm already a bit fatigued from traveling and a little bit of other training earlier this week. So I want to take it quite light. One more minute and then I'm going to hit back. Got barbell loaded with 100 kilos right there. I mean, the barbell is 20 kilos and it's technically loaded with 80 kilos, so 100 kilos total. All right, getting into it. The clip wasn't on all the way. Felt good. Boy, so what can I analyze about my last set? I probably lost a little bit of a thoracic extension, probably on my fourth rep, because you can see I have a very, I don't know if you don't have the eyes to see it, I felt it, so I can kind of notice it. I had a little bit of a small lean on the concentric portion, and that generally means that I've lost a little bit of tension on my thoracic spine. I corrected it at my fifth rep, in which I've got a bit of a strength sticking point there. So 100 kilos feels good. Schmarbles, hello man. Welcome back to my chat. Welcome back to my stream. How you been? I noticed on your Instagram that you started doing more barbell work, so it's like deadlifts and squats. Very impressive. You actually got really, really good squat depth, man. Good. And you, nice pull-up bar. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Yeah. So, from what I noticed, man, I would say form-wise on all of your exercises, you're looking quite good. Like, you're looking quite good form-wise. I would say all you need more is just higher intensity, as in putting a little bit of more extra weight just to really challenge yourself. So I don't know if you can notice on my sets of squats here, but if I'm kind of like struggling just a little bit on my fifth rep, that's a really good range to kind of set your intensity level. I know for a guy your size it could be really, really hard because with intensity comes a little bit of stress on your endurance, and I totally get that. Like, it could be hard, but you want to try to get yourself in the habit of pushing yourself past that wall. And you know what wall I'm talking about, where it just feels like, oh shit, I don't think I can actually push this any further, I'm going to die. That kind of feeling. So let me tell you a story. When I first started bench pressing, I could pretty much only get the bar plus like 28 pounds on each side, right? So bar plus 20, so not that much weight, right? And every time I hit that sticking point on my bench press, I could never push myself past the wall, right? So it just, and then I would fall. So what I would do was I would habitually put myself in that position and then always try to, even if you're just like holding it, right? You want to basically still spend as much time, it's a mental game of fighting against that bar. So it's the same thing with squats. With squats, I could barely do the same thing as well. Every time I hit that sticking point, I was like, no, I drop. But over time, if you get in the habit of pushing yourself past, because what it is, it's a mental barrier. You absolutely can and have the strength to, push through that wall. But it's a mental game. So you have to really think, I must push through this wall. Over time, by getting the habit of doing that, you will build better strength and you will build better musculature that way. As for you, buddy, I don't think you have much going wrong for you in terms of form. Your form actually looks quite good, and especially for a guy your size, you actually have an astounding amount of ankle and hip mobility. So. That makes sense. I'm not going to progress at the moment. I think I'm just trying to work on form and higher reps rather than more weights at home. But when I hit the gym, for sure, when I get proper safeties. Oh, thanks. Yeah, man, you've got really solid mobility for a guy your size. Actually, better mobility than guys my size, to be honest. Like, it's pretty good. So, again, for you, it's just a matter of getting in the extra volume and getting in the extra intensity. So if you're not going to focus on intensity, then at least focus on volume. So doing more reps at the weight that you're doing, right? And then at least fatiguing yourself on the amount of reps, because then you can get at least the metabolic stress, so metabolic overload on that, and on that certain amount of weight. So again, low intensity, then focus on more volume. More volume, if you can get to that point where you can push your body into a metabolic overload, then you're going to be good. And it's going to be quite challenging because, right, so there's three ways to actually build muscle. There is going to be metabolic stress, mechanical overload, and then, well, whatever the other term is for hypertrophy, right? There's another one. But basically, metabolic stress is just basically where you fatigue the muscle to the point where it has like no oxygen left. And so you're going to basically be building some kind of acid, I can't remember. Whatever it is, it basically fills up your muscle, forces it to basically grow. And that's actually the hardest form of training, like really high repetition training. It's one of the ways to build a muscle. I'm gonna have to do some more review on what those three things is, because they're actually quite key to actually building muscle. But the way I like to do it is again through mechanical damage. So eccentric overload is usually how I like to go for my muscle gains. But again, after doing that for a while, you have to start looking into different ways in order to actually build muscle. So hypertrophy training is usually what I go for after that. So yeah, for sure, that's the plan. The first day I was doing sets of 10 reps. I was thinking, wait, I was up to 15, 20 reps. You should keep